$5 for an August moon is an Italian giallo film directed by Mario Bava. It concerns a group of people who have gathered on a remote island for fun and relaxation. One of the guests is a chemist who has created a revolutionary new chemical process, and several of the attending industrialists are eager to buy it from him. Business problem become moot when someone begin killing off the attendees one by one. At the private island retreat of wealthy industrialist George Stark, a group of people have assembled for a weekend getaway. Among the guests is scientist Professor Gary Farrell. The first night passes uneventfully, but Farrell is enraged the next morning to discover that Stark and the other guests planned the weekend to coerce him to sell his latest invention, a formula for a revolutionary industrial resin, which he is reluctant to divulge due to his colleague's death during its invention. Farrell's wife Trudy is having an affair with Stark's artist wife Jill. Stark's business partner Nick is verbally abusive to his coquettish wife Mary, but does not object to her sleeping with other men, one of whom is the Stark's manservant Charles. Stark is less of a husband to Jill than he is a business manager. He arranges for her to have her painting and artwork publicly displayed and is a source of constant criticism. The sole happy couple is Nick's co-worker Jack and his wife Peggy. Also on the island is Isabel, the teenage daughter of Stark's game warden. Isabel's parents are away for medical reasons. As Stark, Nick and Jack badger Farrell for the formula, the original document for which he has secretly destroyed, by offering him check for $1 million, each from their Swiss bank account. Jill discovered the dead body of Charles on the beach. Having already sent the motor launch away to prevent Farrell from leaving the island, and with the radio out of commission, Stark has no way of contacting the mainland. Charles' body is moved into a large walk-in freezer. The next morning, Farrell is walking alone on the beach. Trudy and Jill, walking hand in hand nearby, hear a gunshot and find Farrell's body. They run away to tell the others. The sniper, Isabel, drags Farrell's body to the sea. As temper flared to Farrell's apparent death and disappearance, the killings escalate. Peggy, standing on the balcony of her room, is shot dead by an unseen assailant. Jack arrives on the scene first and accuses Stark of being responsible. Mary is found to have been tied to a tree and stabbed in the chest. Jill turns up dead in her bathtub, her wrist slashed in an apparent suicide. Each of the body is placed in the freezer. The four remaining survivors, Stark, Jack, Nick and Trudy, hold up in Stark's living room for the night. After bickering with Trudy, Nick storms off. The next morning, he too is found dead, and his body is placed in cold storage. Stark offers Trudy his check for Farrell's formula, which she reveals still exists on a microfilm, and uncover a previously hidden motorboat which will take them to the mainland. As he returned to the house to get supplies, Jack confronts him and reveals he killed everyone except for Farrell to steal their check. He also killed Peggy for nearly discovering his plan. Jack shot him dead. Confronted by him in the freezer, Trudy offered to give him the formula in exchange for his check. During the handover, they simultaneously shoot each other. Trudy died first. Isabel steals the check and the formula, but not before an expiring check tried to stop her. Sometime later, a now wealthy Isabel visits Farrell in prison, where he is awaiting execution for the murder of his colleague, the rightful discoverer of the resin. Isabel claimed that she loved Farrell and had decided to save him by rendering him unconscious with a sodium pentothal pellet of the kind her father had used to tranquilize animals, but was unaware of sodium pentathol's truth serum properties, leading him to confess to killing his partner to the authorities. Isabel revealed that she is broke, having cash and spent George and Jack, but not Nick's due to her not knowing the account number. Aware of his inescapable fate and thankful to her, Farrell gave Isabel the number, and she happily lived, instructing her chauffeur to drive her to Lausanne. This 1970 rendition, inspired by Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, regarding the non-plot, as various people are invited by a mysterious host, industrialist George Stark, to relax on his desolate island so that they can exploit the monetary value of one of the gas revolutionary resin formula. As the group of investment speculators attempt to talk scientist Gary Farrell into selling the right of the new formula while they stand at the wild weekend retreat on the private island. But Farrell seemed disinterested and temporized with the stake. The wives and girlfriend along for the fun and erotic game feel the tension as their men stray, or attempt to get them to use love to close a deal. Then a murderer within the group disrupts the proceeding. Once the killing starts, the possibility of anyone trusting anyone is left far behind, as someone begins to kill them one by one, choosing grisly method to murder. Freely based on the popular novel Ten Little Indians and subsequent stage play by Agatha Christie about an unseen killer who sequentially knocks off the visitor. Agatha Christie tells of 10 people invited to an isolated place, hovering around mouthing chunk of exposition while waiting to get murdered. The guests discuss and argue each other, only to find that an unseen person is killing them one by one. Just before the gripping climax of the film, you will be given some second to guess the killer's identity. The film will pause, and on the screen you will see clues to help you decide who the murderer is. But the person in suspect is always the person who is murdered next. There is no way for any of them to flee, so they set about attempting to determine who their hidden host might be and where he might be hiding. Whodunit, in which some guests have been invited by an entrepreneur, joining various colleagues and their wives, being key figure a brilliant chemist who has some investment ideas. When they are all gathered, they are distrusting to each other, while the competitor try to cheat one another with secret bid. Subsequently, the people are being killed off one by one. A psychological thriller in which a number of strangers are forced to come face to face with their sinister aim after receiving invitation to an isolated location of the civilization. Possible adaptation, though the script is unfaithful to the original Agatha Christie novel, being more an inspiration than a correct retelling, excruciatingly tense and so recounting with the usual suspicious characters, taking tension, thrills, chills, twist and turn, but being slowly paced. The whole cast overact at times, and playing cardboard roles against beach scenario and a luxurious mansion. The cast of Carnivore is interchangeable, though there is a few familiar faces such as Edwige Fenech, William Berger, Maurice Polly. However, being hard to keep straight and in some cases more easily identifiable by their now hideous 1970 fashion than the faces. This medium budgeted picture is a really slow with some interesting element, being professionally directed by Mario Bava, but it stick little with the original and classic version. Allegedly a professional assignment given Bava with just 2 days notice. The movie is a fair murder mystery in which even these filmmakers' visual tricks can't sustain interest enough. It picked an evocative cinematography by Antonio Rinaldi and Mario Bava himself, being shot in Anzio, Rome, Lazio, Dia Studios, where in the 60s were filmed lot of peplum. Atmospheric and intriguing score by Piero Umiliani, including launch sound and catching song by Alessandroni. The flick was nicely shot by Mario Bava, who made decent horror film until his death. This is one of the innumerable versions based on Agatha Christie's famous novel. In 1989 rendition 10 Little Indian, switching from an isolated island to African landscape located in the savannah. It was shot in South Africa by producers. Most actors are mediocre and unknown, though there are 3 important players as Donald Pleasance, Brenda Vaccaro and Herbert Lom. George Stark is a wealthy industrialist who invites 5 business friends of his to his remote Mediterranean island for a weekend of relaxation and business. When he introduces them to Professor Farrell, a brilliant chemist who gives investment idea to the group. But against Farrell's wishes, the group goes behind each other's back to obtain information on Farrell's chemistry ideas. And soon the guests and residents start turning up dead, one by one, as Stark and Farrell must rally the group together to determine the identity of the killer, despite nobody trusting anyone. The general consensus seemed to be that this is one of the director Mario Bava's weakest effort. I can't really comment much on that since I have seen too few of his films to compare. But what I can say is that even though I found the twist and turn of this Italian variation of Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indian virtually impossible to fathom, there were still enough positive to make it worth a go. As with many a giallo, the female cast are very easy on the eye, with genre regular Edwige Fenech stripping off whenever possible as always. There are numerous murders, and although they all occur off-screen, the hanging up of the steadily growing number body in a meat locker is wonderfully macabre and darkly amusing. The Zazie score is super cool, perfectly complementing the wonderful 60s-70s architecture and decor of the island's house. And despite Bava's purported disinterest, there is still an unmistakable sense of style, with effective uses of whip pans and rapid zooms, and at least one stunning scene worthy of a genius, wherein a display of glass balls roll down a spiral staircase along the floor and into a bathtub where a woman has committed suicide. Mario Bava himself repeatedly stated that this is the worst film he has ever involved in. So luckily enough, there still are some loyal and naive fanboys to reassure the public that $5 for an August moon nonetheless remain a worthy purchase, and definitely better than your average horror mystery from the early 70s. Even though this giallo can't possibly reach the brilliance level of nearly every other Bava film, It's a light-headed and often ingenious effort. The plot is a very simple variation on Agatha Christie's Ten Little Indians set on an island inhabited by rich and utterly greedy bastards. The island's owner George Stark invited a bunch of businessmen and their wives over for a weekend of $1 million deal and adultery. One of the guests invented a groundbreaking formula and the other make it a sport to beat the most money for it. They aren't even ashamed to throw in their wife as an extra. The party really gets interesting once the invitees' body turn up brutally murdered one by one. $5 for an August moon indeed look more like a satire instead of a suspenseful giallo, and it's obvious that Baba didn't put much devotion into it.